I believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are you wondering about with niching?
Well, specifically, I feel like I have so many niches and so many like things that I could hop into, and I'm wondering how to narrow it down and to find the best one for me.
Yeah, that's a big question. Okay, that I would actually recommend checking out the puttering prep. Those
Awesome.
activities, probably the best. There's a certain amount of it will just choose you at a certain point. There's a certain amount of that. We just get defeated on enough of them, and there's one left standing, and there's that. But those exercises will help. Now, what do you do generally? What's the broad strokes of what you do?
So I do Reiki energy healing, and I'm in a coaching course right now. So
Okay,
going to be adding spiritual life coaching to that.
great. Yeah, the most reliable thing I know is that our deepest wounds are often a doorway to our truest niche. The places we've struggled the most are often a place where we can be most useful to the world. Given enough time and healing. So that one is just surprisingly accurate in terms of nailing a niche. If you just want the quick answer, it's like, okay, where have I most struggled? What's been hard for me that I've overcome? Let me start with that,
Hmm.
because you've got empathy. You could write a good sales letter because you're just writing it to who you used to be. You've already got a bit of a point of view around it. You're probably already familiar with some of the hubs because you did your own searching around it. That would be the thing. Does anything jump out initially?
Yeah. So I guess another question to add on to this is like, what if like I'm not qualified or prepared to help people with that yet, and I'm still working through so much of it myself, and I want to continue my practice in the meantime. Um, but also I did find I was attracting clients who had this kind of issue.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I can see it, but they might not even see it in themselves yet.
Yeah. Well, there's, as good Reverend Michael Beckwith said, God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. So there's that. But on a practical level, right? What do you do? Well, there's an ebook I've got, by the way, called "Who Am I to Teach and Charge for It?" That may be of use around this. But the right, what happens if you're not completely healed on an issue? You still got some work to do, some learning, but it feels like it could still be a compelling niche. The main thing is this: as long as you're not over promising, you're fine. Because there may be this whole journey and you're only here. Well, as long as you're not promising to take anyone further than there, okay, it's all good. So it may just be sitting down saying, okay, within this issue, where do I comfortably feel like I can promise to take people? So for example, it may be like, I'd like to help people figure out their niche, but I don't have a lot of experience. So you might be able to promise like just progress. Look, I'm still learning. Uh, but by the end of this workshop, you will be clearer about your niche. You might just be able to promise that. And that's sometimes enough for people. The other thing is that you may, sometimes people are willing to join together around just a question. I mean, goes back to the jams a bit. So you don't have to have the answers all the time. You can just say, look, I'm somebody who's really wrestling with these questions. If you'd like to have a space to wrestle with those questions with other people, you can host events and gatherings, discussions, just exploring the question itself. And you're not setting yourself up as an expert, but you're learning through the process. And of course, this is where beta tests and pilot programs come from. So if you go to my playlists as well on YouTube, there's a bunch of stuff around beta tests. So you can do a kind of simple, like, look, I'm just offering this. There's still more for me to learn, but it's a beta pro. So I'm charging less because I'm still in my learning phase. And I'm doing this mostly for feedback, for testimonials, for the experience, to give it a shot. And then it's fine too. The only trouble is when we say like, yes, I'll completely, I struggled with eating disorders and I'll completely heal you of eating disorders by the end, but you're still only 10%. That's unethical.
Mhm.
But if you're struggling with that and you're only really 10% into your healing, and you say, look, I just would love to lead a discussion group on this topic. You might be qualified for that. You don't have to, know everything to do that. The other thing I would say for everyone is, if you have a niche and you think, okay, I don't feel quite qualified for that one, but I really, man, am I inspired? Do the beta test, do small things, do little tests over the year. And over that year, read 10 different books on that topic. Just study, go to town, sign up for the courses, learn. I mean, there's so much free or cheap learning. There's YouTube channels on this. Really dig in. And then at the end of the year, sit down with all those books, all your notes, and just ask yourself, okay, now how do I see it? Let me put together my own point of view based on everything I've learned. I like this piece of this person's work, but I don't like that. And I like this, and I'm going to put, and you put it all together. I promise you, at the end of the year of doing that, especially if you do that kind of integration process, you'd be amazed how much more confident you feel stepping into the new year. Because now you got a plan. Now you got an approach. And then you can say, look, I've just created this new approach, beta test version 2. This is like a deeper level of it. Now we see if my point of view holds up to reality. And you don't charge as much as you might eventually. But then you do get to a point fairly quickly where it's like, oh man, I feel pretty bulletproof about helping people on this issue. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful. I especially just like having the permission to bring someone from here to where I'm at and not promise any further. That's a great place to start.
Amen. And here's the other thing too is, even though you feel like, oh, but I'm only here, you can see more in other people's lives than you can. It's real easy to be a spiritual genius in other people's lives. I don't know if you've all noticed that. That's easy. Being a spiritual genius in your own life is fucking impossible. We're impenetrable. There's some weird Venn diagram of we're all an expert in our own experience and we are all complete mysteries to ourselves. Somewhere in that overlap that's where our lives belong. But so it's easier to see it with other people. So even though you may feel like, well, I'm only here, you might actually be surprised how capable you are at helping other people with it, because it's not you. You're not the one dealing with, we can see it in other people more clearly. And that's literally the function of our bodies too, if you consider it. Everyone else in the world can see us more clearly than we can see ourselves. There's so many parts of our body we can't see. I don't think I've seen that part of my body directly, with my eyes without the aid of a mirror. My lower back, upper, in the middle of my back. I've certainly never seen that with my own eyes. I don't even know if it exists. I don't know if there's anything there. Other people tell me it does. I'll trust them. There's the old adage, the Irish proverb says, "Scan ma sul carriage," which means a friend's eye is a good-looking glass, is a good mirror. So there's just that. Just by being outside them, we're instantly more qualified than they are to deal with that situation. Which is, of course, why you have a village, because it's like left to our own devices to solve our problems. It's a hopeless affair. So thank God we have other people. Yeah. Well, thank you, Sarah, for being willing to offer that up.